know what it is. Yep, seed talk. We plant seeds, drop breadcrumbs that lead to eggs. You can have go into a better state of awareness and knowledge. Hey, yo, it's seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. I came from earth, we close like some tree bark. I came to plant seeds, I came to breed trees. Together we bear fruit, you can check the leaves. Shed light on blind spots, water the grass is green. Everybody is a coach, we speak as a team. Being supreme, we the seen and unseen. Yo, we gotta keep it real to wake you out of your dreams. Hey, yo, it's seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. Seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. It's seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. It's seed talk, stuff to make your seeds talk.
You know what it is. Seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. Shout out to Bobby and Precious, man. When we gonna do a show again, man? I know y'all watching this, man. But anyways, please make sure you're sharing this and whatnot, commenting, because we're gonna have a great show. I have another artist, activist, educator, living, breathing, fogging up a mirror, black carbon, melanated, copper person to interview, have dialogue with. So make sure you share and you comment. If you in the YouTube universe, make sure that you are subscribing to this so it can grow. Like I've said many times, this is probably one of the best and easiest ways to support a black business. All you got to do is just tap it and walk away. Don't do that, though. But it still counts as a view. And then throw a little comment in there every now and again. You hear something you like. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe we can monetize this one day. All right? So please share and comment. Real talk. And if you want to donate to Seed Talk, because you know StreamYard, I'm on a professional plan. It ain't free. And slavery is over. So we giving our time. So if you feel it in your hearts, in your mind, and in your bank, your piggy bank, give us some of those brown guys. You know what I'm saying? With Lincoln on the front, even though he didn't free the slaves. Cash App, $ Logic Man, Venmo at Logic Man. Our guests will put their monetary hashtags and whatnot and references in there, so you can donate to her too. Because Nico needs some baby food. You know what I'm saying? We gonna, and that's a perfect segue into our talk today. Yes, I met this person through her agent at Langston Hughes Cultural Arts Center. There was a spoken word event going on there, thrown by sisters Monique and Nichelle, and they had a nice little artist mixer going on there. We did some writing. We did a whole bunch of cool stuff that day. And I approached this person's agent and manager, and we touched bases. Shout out to my guy Nico. Shout out to Nico real quick. I don't know where he is. Nico get more than that. Shout out to Nico, man. The 6-month-old agent, you know what I'm saying? The child of our guest. Why don't you go ahead and tell him who you are in all seriousness? Glad to have you on the show. Tell him who you are.
Yes, I'm Halisi, the wisdom wordsmith. There are so many titles that I can attach to that. I'm mother, poet, children's book author, life coach, friend, advocate. I am a tree too. I like that I'm on Seed Talk because I have a piece called I Am a Tree. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. You a seed, right. I'm a tree.
Yeah, I love your name, Halisi. And when you gave me your name and I put it in my phone, or you put it in your phone, it was Halisi Ali L, aka Wisdom. You know, I like long names because my my official name is Logic 7 Allah Amen, the original idea. But talk about your name, Halisi. I got some ideas of where it's from and its origins, but what does it mean and what inspired the name Halisi Ali L, or even the wisdom wordsmith? I mean, let's just start with Halisi. There's a lot to unpack here. We got time.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. So Halisi is Swahili and it means authentic. But I get in Ubers a lot, right? And my Uber drivers are sometimes African. And when I say African, I mean like Kenyan, Gambian. They come from everywhere. And they ask They said, "Your name is Halisi?" And they always say it's suspicious. And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Do you know what that means?" I say, "Yeah, it means authentic or pure." They said, "Yes, but it also means dangerous," depending on the context, which I thought, oh, yeah, that fits. So Halisi in its origins is Swahili. And
Mm-hmm.
I named myself. It's the second principle of Kwanzaa, which is Kuji Chagulia. And Kuji
Mm-hmm.
Chagulia talks about naming ourselves and being determined. And during that time, when I was coming into myself, especially in my artistry, I needed to find a name that really spoke to who I was. And at the time, I was a part of Christianity, and all the women that would come ask for prayer would say, "You're so real. You're just so authentic." That's why they liked me. I cuss
Mm-hmm.
too. So I tell people I cuss, but my prayers still get to the Lord. And so they would say, "You're crazy. You're so real." And so I Googled authenticity in Swahili, and Halisi came up.
Okay, that's dope.
So
Shut-
that's how I got Halisi.
That's dope. What about the L part?
Okay, so Ali is a title of
Want to
nobility.
play an
So
instrument? Musician is the easy.
Don't do that. Sorry, my bad. I was queuing up something for you, but go ahead. Go ahead.
no worries. Ali is so Ali L is a title and it belongs together. I can't separate. I can't talk about L without the Ali. And so I was a fundraiser. I am a black unicorn is what white women called me in fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my friends, he's a Moor, and he came to a fundraising event, and his eyes were like, he said, "You're an Ali." And he said, "The title Ali is a title of nobility for the most praised. The
Mm.
Ali is not given to self, Ali is given to you." And I couldn't believe he was saying that to me. So,
He was a brother in the Morris Science Temple.
yes. So he told me, "You are
That
Ali."
was some cold Morris Science Temple game right there, boy. He was Morris Mackin right there. That's that Morris Mackin.
It worked too because I got two kids by him. I'm like, I love him. Shout out to Sunel University, my brother Koo. But and then L, right? L is also a title of nobility. It is in its direct source, meaning God, but it also is a title of nobility in Moorish science for the lawgivers. So because I'm a writer, that also says who you are, right? When people see L, they know that I write law.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Morris Science Temple brothers, I've heard, have the and sisters they have the name L, and also the Hebrew Israelite brothers. I've heard them, and I've always liked the title L. Back in the day, one of my monikers, my hip hop monikers, was L7. And people would be
oh,
like, "Oh, you're a square." Be like, you don't get it. That's where the
they don't
but
get it.
yeah, yeah, L7 is a square, but the square is where the fight is fought. You know what I'm saying?
That's
It's fought.
right.
It's funny that they
That's
call it a
right.
square, but they call it it's a square, but it's they call it a ring. So it's kind of a play on a whole bunch of things. But
Right.
L7 meant, what I'm saying, the God. You know what I'm saying, or
That's
God,
right.
God's number. That was my play on it. That didn't last long because I didn't
I
like
like
people.
it though. Why
Well, I didn't
not?
like people like thinking I was like proud to be like a square. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like that. So, anyways, shout out to your many monikers, your names, and all the meanings of transformation. You don't want to tell people your Christian name. You don't want to tell no one that. Okay,
Demetria did great things in the world. So
Dimitri, that's a dope name. Okay,
if
it
you
sounds kind of French or
it
Italian.
is it is
Italian.
Greek. It's
Oh,
it's
okay. Oh,
Greek in
Demetrius,
its
like it's like
origin.
Demetrius. Yeah, that is Greek. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a variation of Demeter, the goddess. So yeah, Demetria did some great things. I'm not
Okay.
ashamed of that.
All right. So that's another great segue. C Talk is all about segues. Shout out to segues. Where did where is the evolution of Demetria? Like what's her genesis story? How did Halisi get her superpowers?
Oh my word. Oh God.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I'm born in Toledo, Ohio. But
What?
I do,
Shout
yeah,
out to Ohio. I was born in Cleveland, raised in Cincinnati. Shout out to the mighty state of Ohio. Buckeyes,
yes,
Bearcats, Musketeers, all them. Mhm.
yes.
Bengals.
Uh, yeah, I'm born in Toledo, Ohio. My mom came to Seattle, Washington for a fresh start, and she brought me with her with a little brother. And I grew up actually right on Graham Street, right at the
Mhm.
top of Graham Hill.
Yeah, my children, two out of three of my children, of our children went to Graham Hill Elementary. Yep.
Ah, sweet.
Mhm.
Yeah, so grew up here. God, I lived everywhere.
Hold on, let's go
Started
back. Let's go back to the Graham Hill. So if you grew up in Graham Hill, you grew right next door to Seward Park, a very affluent, one of the first affluent black neighborhoods in the city of Seattle, and it's a very has a high population of European or white Jews up there. What was that like living up there in that area?
well, I've been surrounded by Black Power my whole life. Shout out to my stepdaddy, Cookie Monster, who is the founder of the Brothers of the Sons. And so I don't know what it's like growing up because in my world, I was in the Sun. I was in the Brothers of the Sun. My mom was the sister of the Sun. And that was campouts and parties at the clubhouse. Kids don't belong in clubhouses, but I was there.
Oh wait, is that a motorcycle group?
It's a motorcycle
Yeah.
club. Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. The
Okay.
Magic
Okay.
Wheels. So that was my childhood.
That's
Seward
dope.
Park. We did a lot of cookouts there. I don't do picnics. You
Yeah.
know that.
You don't go where they pick a nigga and do all that.
That's right. We do
You know
cookouts.
what the interesting thing, that's what I like about Seed Talk, because you'll drop a breadcrumb like that and we'll have a whole different side conversation about it. Shout out to whatever you're eating over there. Shout out to whatever you're eating.
Peaches.
Yeah, get it, get it. But no, I did some research because we always be like, pick a nigga and all that. And then if you see
Mhm.
the postcards, they actually have postcards back in the day of hanging
Ain't that
from
horrible?
trees. But I took it a step further because people were like, well, it's not that serious. Lodging and fine. We won't call it a picnic. We'll call it a barbecue. So I did some research. I said, well, actually, I don't know if we should call it a barbecue either because they was burning us. Oh, it's not the same thing. That's not the origins. Are you sure that's not the origins? Because if you go to barbecue, the actual origins of the word means to burn flesh, whether it's an animal or a human being. So I
Yeah,
don't know. We might want to just start calling it a gathering. We
I
hang
know.
out. I don't know. We don't want to call it a hangout.
I know, literally. Well, I mean, cookout, right? Like, is a
Right.
cookout good?
No,
That's what I say.
what in all seriousness, what the one of the most appropriate terms for black people coming together?
Yeah.
Homecoming.
Okay.
That's where they get the title homecoming. That was actually stolen from
Wow.
high schools and colleges and universities from white folks, stole the term from black folks when they got reunited from their family members who were stolen and kidnapped and put into slavery. When they got back together, they had a party and a celebration, and they called it a homecoming.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think
Yeah.
that's the most fitting.
Boom. Let's do that. Let's start that.
I'm
Coming to
hosting
we
a
gonna have a
homecoming.
homecoming. We're gonna start having homecomings.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
more fitting.
But anyways, so I need to have some brothers and sisters in my motorcycle clubs for real because that is a dope and very different and interesting culture.
Yeah.
A really, really good friend of mine who I consider my brother. Shout out to the babies real quick. One of my really close brothers who I consider like my best friend and spiritual big brother, Truth Allah. He's a part of a motorcycle crew or club. I forget the name of his motorcycle club name. Dang, I used to know. Heavy something. Anyways,
Is he a magic wheel?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyways, but anyway, and then my cousin back in Ohio in Cincinnati, he's in a I've hung out with him at the motorcycle club. It's just a really interesting and different culture. You know what I'm saying? But thanks for dropping that breadcrumb. So shout out to all my brothers and sisters who are in the motorcycle clubs. Any tribe that we put out there to unite our people and to fundraise and to provide resources to our community, because they do a lot for the community, man. Some of these motorcycle club, and then it does have an underbelly on it too. That if you go
Right.
looking for it, they will get busy and they will take care of business. They are a form of warriors and soldiers on the street, and that can be a good thing. You know what I'm saying? They are protectors of the community too. But anyway, that's a different story. So, anyways, Graham Hill, child of a motorcycle club. What you said, sons of what was the name?
Brothers of the Suns.
Brothers of the Sun. Shout out to the babies. Okay. So then let's just tell us what it was like growing up in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? Where'd you go to middle school? Where'd you go to high school?
So, growing up in Seattle for me was, I've been working my whole life. I kind of came into all that I do because my mom started having some mental health issues. So my life became mental health at the age of 5.
Okay.
And okay,
Yeah.
we'll tell her be kind. I kind of got my wings, or you asked me like, how did I get activated? I kind of came into my spiritual self at 5 when my mom started dealing with mental illness. So growing up in Seattle for me, it was fun because, like I said, my stepdad was in a motorcycle club, but it was also work and responsibility for me because I was the oldest of 3. And my mom had, those challenges. And back then, kids helped when parents had challenges. These kids today, I don't know, but don't tattletale. It's okay. Be kind. Don't wake them up. Go play. Yeah, so work and responsibility. I went to various elementaries. I couldn't even name them all. But I did some middle school out north, and was Kellogg Middle School. I did some middle school
Yeah. You
out.
out there in the shoreline. See, you follow. Why you following my children all around? So I guess my children followed you because they ended up going to Kellogg also too. 2 of my children
Oh, really?
move out there with
Yeah.
their mother and stuff. So yeah, out there in the shoreline area. Yeah.
Yep. I
We will
lived
not be
out
giving
there.
a shout out. We will not be giving a shout out to Kellogg Middle School though.
No, we won't.
Old
We
boy
can
from the
shout
office.
out Illahee though, right? I went to Illahee and Federal Way.
Oh, you went to where? What is it called? You breaking up? I can't hear you. What'd you say? You said you
I
went
said we
where?
can give a shout out to Illahee though, right?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Shout out to whatever you said
To
just now.
Illahee
Is that a
Middle
middle
School and
school?
Federal Way.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school at?
Illahee Middle School, yeah.
Okay, you got something going on with your connection over there. But where did you
I
go to
went
high
to
school?
a few middle schools. I went to high school in Ohio.
So you ended up going back to Ohio after middle school?
Yeah, so I told you, so mom had the issues, right? And we lived in Seattle. Mind you, I have no blood relatives in this state. Um, can you still hear
Nah,
me?
it's breaking up. This ain't working.
Stefan Payne.
Things is getting crazy. Can you hear
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're
me?
frozen on my end. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Just go ahead and talk about your move back to Ohio from Seattle? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that was a culture shock. Because in Washington, I have been raised in a melting pot. You know what I'm saying? So everybody congregates with everybody, but back home it's still kind of segregated. So it was a culture shock back home. Back home is where I found out that I wasn't black enough, but I wasn't white either. So that was hell.
What was it? That's interesting that you said that. So me, being a migrator oh from Ohio to Seattle. When I came here, I still had my Ohio, accent. Instead of bathroom, I said bathroom. Water. Stuff like that. Um, I've grown into my voice now. You know what I'm saying? I've gotten some education. I'm a poet, and so I pretty much mastered the English language. So now you can tell that I'm not a Washingtonian or a Seattleite. People always can tell, oh, you from somewhere else. But it's interesting when I started to go to O'Day, all boys school up on Capitol Hill, they'd be like, because when we first came here, we went to Kent, and then my parents bought a house in Issaquah, and I used to wear penny loafers, and I used to put dimes in them. And I went to an all boys school, so I dressed like a prep. If I'm gonna wear some penny loafers, I'm gonna put a spin on them, put some dimes in it. They said I was like a white boy. You act like a white boy. You talk like a white boy. It's very interesting. I was like, damn, that's interesting. But then I was asking them stuff like, well, if I, talk like a white boy, do you know who Marcus Garvey is? And, Martin Luther King and, of course they knew who Martin Luther King is, but Malcolm X, these are all people who spoke proper English. They didn't know who these people were, like Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and stuff like that. I said, but I talk white. So then after that, I became Malcolm Farrakhan. But the interesting thing is, when I went back home, I went from talking like a white boy to Malcolm Farrakhan. But interesting thing is when I went back home to Cincinnati, they heard me talk, and I guess my accent was gone. They was like, "You talk like a white boy."
Yeah.
Why is it that you think that they were saying that you was acting like a white person? What is it about you that changed when you came back, you think?
I mean, when I left, I was 2, so I don't know what. I mean, I was a baby. What could I sound like? But I mean, I'm proud to say, like, I went to schools that I learned proper English, and I've been a writer since I was a child, and I could read music. So, I mean, to me, it was alienating, but I was confident in who I was. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that I knew about me that I could do. So it's kind of just like those things that you let roll off of you. But I mean, I told my family just now, because we kind of just connected, and they're like, "Why did you leave Ohio?" And I said, I didn't feel like I was part of this family. But coming back, I've been back as a grown woman, and everyone's like, "Oh, we love you, my favorite cousin." And I am like, where was I? Because I don't know these people.
Right. So, what kind of musician are you? You said that you can read music. What instrument do you play other than your voice?
I play clarinet.
Oh, okay. You still play to this day?
I can. I haven't.
Okay.
I gave my clarinet. My niece was when she was in 5th grade. I gave it to her. I got to actually go get that from my sister, because my niece is in college now. She don't play the clarinet.
Okay.
But
So
yeah.
when you talk about how's your mom now? Is she still around, or?
My mom is still around, and my mom is a miracle. If I didn't tell you that my mom had mental illness, you would never know. My mom is doing peer support counseling for other people like her now.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say mental health, I mean, mental health is a spectrum. It could be anywhere from depression or anything. Like, what are we talking about when we say mental health?
she wouldn't mind me talking about this. My mom's diagnosis bipolar manic depressive. So
Mm.
it's extremes, right? I don't know if they still give people that diagnosis. Maybe today they might give you a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, bipolar manic depressive. So when mom is feeling good and she's high, that's
Mm.
manic. We get to go shopping. Everything's great, right?
Mm.
And when things are low, that's when she's depressed. And, window shades were closed for like 2 weeks. And, we're on our own making food and running a house.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
Part of these conversations, what I like about Seed Talk is planting seeds to grow community. And part of what we want to grow as a community is that you're not alone. And
That's
my
right.
mom wouldn't mind me saying this either. So reason why I asked the question, because on the spectrum of mental health, I don't use the word mental illness anymore, but
Yeah.
she would be clinically diagnosed as depression. And I've seen that side of her where, you know, where she just didn't feel good. And I remember just growing up, like being concerned, like how you always want to be like your mom and dad and your elders, but then there's some things like you don't want to be like them about, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure
Yeah.
there's times where my mom was concerned, like, if she, would pass that on genetically to me, you know what I'm saying? So growing up with
Mhm.
a person who deals with mental health, you know what I'm saying? Difficulties or challenges, especially with depression, is just learning how
Yeah.
to be at peace with how you feel. But also, it's the kind of like the concern or low key fear of
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
wanting to inherit
Which
that
is
too.
like you kind of, yeah, you kind of slid into some other things like with what I do with coaching. Um, because I grew up in that environment, right? There are times when mom says, I'm fine, everything is fine, but the house is dark and you ain't got up all day. And so we start to learn I'm fine is synonymous with these behaviors, right? So a lot of what I do is the undoing of those mixed messages, right? Communication is about, depending on what you research, it's about 95% body language, right? Communication is not even majority words.
Mm,
And so to have a parent dealing with depression who can't articulate to you, I'm depressed right now. You grow up thinking certain things are just normal, right? It's fine. Like mom is fine. But when other people come in your house and they're like, dude, it's dark in here. Like it ain't fine in here.
yeah,
You know?
it's a different value system. And it's a different set of norms. That's
Yes.
why we say like black folks are a monolith, you know what I'm saying? Because you can go in one household and they have one set of value systems and a culture of norms, and then in another household, it looks totally different. I'm
It's
fine looks totally different. Um,
yeah.
how how much do you think about of how much was transferred to you, and how much preparation and planning did you have to do when it came to your life, when it came to routines to avoid those things?
Well, okay, even though my mom dealt with those things, my mom's also a foster child. So in foster care, you learn routines and schedules. So my aunt and my mom have a saying, wash it, rinse it, get it on out, feed them, clothe them, lay them on down. So that was our nighttime routine. Wash them, rinse them, get them on out. That means shower them, get them clean, get them out, feed them, clothe them, lay them down. So our house was very regimented. It wasn't like all on chaos, right? And by the time my mom got her diagnosis when I was 5, then we were in counseling, right? So I had the combination of the church, and my pastor, as a child, was going to get his clinical, his license and all that stuff as a psychiatrist. So I grew up not only in a therapeutic home where we went to counseling, but then I had my spiritual leader as a child was also adept in communication in that realm and was a large support for my mom. So I guess I learned how to solve problems. I don't, on one side, right? The other side is I'm high energy. So being honest with myself about how I feel, like feeling down or feeling bad was wrong in our house. Like the way me and my brothers judged our mom, we didn't want to feel like that. So it made us hyper independent, hyper, we're hyper motivated. You know what I'm saying? Which are great things. But there are times I have to tell myself it's okay that I can
Absolutely.
rest today. I don't
Yeah.
have to do all these things, right?
Right. Yeah, that's dope.
So,
Dope. That's really good.
yeah,
It's good for you and your mom. One of the things as I've gotten older, probably for the last decade, I've really come to the realization it's not about, chasing happiness, you know what I'm saying, or being worried about being sad. It's about being at peace at
that's right.
however you feel. Just be at peace with it. And I just lean in it. If I'm feeling sad, I feel it, I lean into it just like I lean into it when I'm feeling happy or
That's
motivated.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just like that's just where I'm at. And
Yeah.
there was a good book that was written recently called Rest is Resistance. And it basically is a pushback on white supremacy and crass consumer capitalism, just pushing it back against this economic system and this grind culture that says that to be successful and to prove that you have worth or value, that you
Right.
always have to be moving and grinding and working. And if you're not working, then you're lazy and you ain't about,
Right.
man. And I've always been a person who's been multifaceted and have a lot of energy, but it's okay to be tired. It's okay to
Yeah.
rest. You know what I'm saying? It's a form of
Yes.
resistance. So you go back to Ohio and you go to high school. How long did you stay in Ohio before you came back to Washington State?
Oh God. Okay, so I was about 15 when I got to Ohio. I left Ohio after college when I was 23.
Where'd you go to college at again? For all the people out there who don't know.
Shout out to Stotzenberger. It's a technical college. I didn't go to a university.
I thought
I
you were gonna
went
say
to a
like
technical
Wilberforce or
college.
something. I thought you were gonna say
No,
Wilberforce or something.
Stotzenberger.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Stotzenberger College.
took the doll from me.
Okay, you guys, can you share? You have other dolls. Go find another doll. Your aunt bought you a bunch.
But I was playing with that one.
Okay, tell her mommy said give it back.
Carrie, mommy said give it back.
Uh-oh. All
It
right.
never stops.
Mom, Carrie said no.
It's okay. Can you get another doll? I know you see me talking to somebody.
So you go to college, and what did you study in college?
I studied medical assisting. I got my associate's degree in medical assisting and administrative procedures.
Right. Okay. So then after that, you head back to Washington State and talk about your introduction into poetry because the night that I met you, you got on the mic and dropped some dope poetry. You sent me some tracks. Um, so how did you get introduced to poetry and then how did that transform or modify your life?
You know what's interesting about that? So I was in seventh grade
I
and
was in seventh grade at one time too.
I don't remember if it was a teacher or like I read a lot in middle
Mhm.
school. And I came across Langston Hughes. That was one of the first poets I came across. And I remember telling my friend, I said, I'm going to be a poet and I'm going to write poems for my friends. And they laughed at me.
Okay.
So poetry for me was it was just therapeutic. Like I'm the oldest, everything fell on my shoulders. So it was just always an outlet for me to create. I would write short stories, poems for my friends. It was a keepsake. It wasn't even something that I didn't, at the time I didn't know I could be professional and make money from something like that. It was just a way of escape from dealing with everything in my life.
Okay. And then so how did you mature and grow into, into poetry?
I dated a musician. Oh my God, I want to shout
What?
him out, but I'm not.
You said what?
I dated a musician. So I came back to Seattle in 2008. And like around 2010, I meet this musician at church. And he also played out, like he would be at the Hard Rock, he would be at Columbia City Theater. He would play different pockets of places and he would invite me. And I met Monique and Infinity at Aphrodisiac. Actually, he took me to an Aphrodisiac event.
Okay.
And I never stopped writing. Like my writing used to be just for me. There's one piece I wrote in 7th grade where I won an award, and they put my poem in the SeaTac Mall, which is now Federal Way Commons.
Oh, that's
But
dope.
other than that, I had never wrote for people. So when I see Monique and Infinity, that's when I'm like, oh shit, I can do this like as an adult on a stage.
Right.
Let me grab Nico. I know you hear him. Hold on.
Shout out to Halisi and Nico. But we're just talking about her journey. Saying growing up in Ohio, moving to Washington, and then being with her mother and whatnot, and her dealing with some mental health challenges, and then going back to Washington State, and after going to college, and then getting introduced to poetry. And what's up, Nico? Look at the old man. Oh, he's mad. He's so mad. So after you go to this aphrodisiac poetry, you get inspired to do some more poetry.
Yeah, so the poetry for me was more like free writing, right? But once I saw them, I start thinking like, oh, I can craft things. So I mean, it was still like a free write, right? But I keep going to support, like when Monique has events, I keep going, I keep writing. I met artists like I think his name is Damon Arundel, and so I met others who were like, had really taken their craft serious, and it just made like I just kept going, mostly just as a supporter, but just kind of like mentally putting together like, who am I? Who can I be? Right. And at this time, I'm still Demetria. I'm not Halisi. Okay. I'm just Demetria. And I'm working my 9 to 5 in different offices. But I'm still writing, and I'm dating a musician. And so, I mean, I've always sang. I never took that serious. It was just something I did as a therapy for myself. Fast forward, I get married. I get married in 2012. 2000 and I want to say it was like 14, maybe 15. Sisters Rock the Arts was born. And mind you, I'm still connected to Monique and them. And I get invited to go to Rumba Notes, and it's open mic. And one of my girlfriends is like, go up, go up. And I have been working. I sent you Womanist. I have been working on Womanist. It was just something I sang in the shower as a therapy while I'm in this marriage that I felt like prison, right? So Womanist was just my little therapy to kind of like remember who you are. Don't let these things get you down. And I took Womanist to the stage. And I used to sing it. It wasn't such a poetic piece. It was like just the hook. And it sounded drastically different because I used to sing it to Angie Stone, No More Rain in This Cloud. So it sounded drastically different. And I go up and I'm doing the hook, but people are not connecting with this. Okay. Like it's like crickets. Okay. But I can see myself on the mirror, and Infinity's right in front of the stage. And I look at her, I was like, how come the band isn't playing? And she's like, it's okay. They're trying to feel you. Just keep singing. Just keep doing it. And I was feeling stupid. I'm like, I'm not about to keep doing this. I'm getting off. And she's like, no, just keep going. and they picked up the melody, and it just came together. And it was like literally on stage, I learned how to stick with something even though it was hard. And people were looking at me crazy.
That's that poetry, you know what I'm saying? Growing pains. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
gave birth to a new child. I call all my poems, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? My children, you know what I'm saying? I give birth to them. And so like that was a hard birth for you. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
it be like that sometimes. Um, so do we have access? Does the public have access to that piece?
Oh, the public used to have access. It used to be on my YouTube. So that link I sent you, only the people I share it with have access, because I'm working with some folks so that I can release that as an official single.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's only accessible to those I share it with, but
Okay,
it's coming. It's coming.
so when people are in the chats like share it to me, share it with me, Logic, I'm gonna say no, I can't do it. I can't. Shout out to Nico. Shout out to you and Nico, the first people on Seed Talk to breastfeed. Let's go.
Well, let me tell you though, Logic, you have the link. So
You said
you
what?
can share, you have the link, so you can
Yeah.
share it, and they can listen to it. But if they were to search it,
Yeah.
maybe pieces of me performing it live might show up.
Okay, so
That
what I'm
video
gonna
might
do, man, if y'all out there and y'all want to hear this piece, if y'all can get into the comment section and hit me off, inbox me and let me know if you want to hear it. I'll send it to you. Hit me on Messenger. We can do it through that, or you can hit me at logiconman@gmail.com. I can send it to you. But that's what we do, is we're building a community. You said something else that I can't skip over. You said that marriage was like prison. There's a movie about that called 12 Years a Slave. I was married for 12 years. Best thing that ever happened to me was when I got married, and the best thing that ever happened to me was when I got divorced. If oh man, the lessons you
okay.
learn while being married and as a prisoner. So why did you call it prison? You don't want to put it out
It
there. I ain't
wasn't.
trying to. Go ahead.
I know he wouldn't be mad at me either. It, when I say prison, right? Like, our personalities are not static. I do believe that, like, it's an evolving journey. And I met someone when I was in high school, and he loved his sweetheart. So to him, I was always 16, even though I was 33 when I birthed Womanness on the stage. And this new aspect of me wanted to be born, and she had things to say. And he says, but you can't go to open mic every Thursday. You're my wife. And I said, why can't I go? I cooked the dinner. Your food's in the microwave. The kids are fed. They're in the bed. Do you want to go? He said, no. It was just like rules. Like, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand why I couldn't. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty good. And it was making me a happier mom. So I didn't get it. That part started to feel like prison. The rules.
Yeah.
You're
No,
my
I
wife.
hear that. I think for a person to deal with, if when they're in a marriage or they're in a relationship with an artist, in particular a poet or a musician, or even I would say even an activist artist, because your attention is so regulated and divided, and that's hard for your significant other if they feel like their needs aren't being fulfilled, to be comfortable with that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I get it, I understand it, but I don't agree with it. And I it, and I know that on the flip end, in their defense, I'm not for anyone, trying to put regulations and saying you can't go somewhere, but I also understand how that feels. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that could, create some insecurities. I understand that they want the kind of attention that the audience might get, or the community might get. It's like, when do I get time? So I often say, when I meet people who I know who are, married or in relationships or whatnot, I often say, hey man, thank you for sharing your significant other with us. I appreciate it, because I know it's hard, you know what I'm saying, and whatnot. How did the poetry help you through that experience? How did poetry and the arts help you through that?
Oh, I found my voice. I found my voice, and I was okay with saying my, no and yes. At the same time, my speaking career, right? I'm a public speaker. That was birth. So my voice became like the leading aspect, and I guess I'm saying, let me make it clear. It was once a week poetry, okay? But when I'm at home and I'm with my family, I'm 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that presence is something, like my kids can't get my presence back once they grow up. So
Mm-hmm.
like right now I'm doing this, but my kids, they love seeing me on stage. They
Mm-hmm.
love that I'm on this podcast with you, that mommy's teaching and that mommy's sharing. So daddy had a problem with sharing. It wasn't about me doing it once a week. It was the fact, like, no week. Like, I don't want you doing this, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we talk, but I think a person has to have understanding for another and
Mm-hmm.
value someone else's vision, right?
Yeah, I remember one of the things that I admired about you when you got on the mic. You let people know, because you, like I said, that's how we met right there. That's him. That's the agent. That's the manager. He linked us. Um, you got on the mic and you were very proud to be a mother, and I thought that was dope. I always like our brothers and sisters who are parents, even if it's not their biological
Leave
children.
it open.
Because I had a stepdad that helped raise me. I always love it and admire when they're proud to be parents. And one of the first things you say, hey man, I got 7 children, man. Seven's a great number too. That's it's completion in the Bible. In our spiritual circle, a nation of gods and earth, that's God. But seven's a powerful number. What's it like being a mother to seven? You know, seven seven reflections. You living 8 times, sister. You know that,
Yeah.
right? You're living 8 times. You got me beat. I'm only living 4 times.
I say. Someone just asked me this at the soccer game. She said, "What is it like being a mom of 7?" And I don't really think I grasped her question because I answered her. And she says, "No, I don't mean that." She said, "I mean, how do you keep everything straight?" Like, and because my mom did have those challenges in my childhood, go tell her to open the door. Go. My mom's challenges, my mom was not always present for me. And so I look at these little people as aspects of myself that I birthed. So I remember how frustrated I was with my second child. I remember when my third child, when I was pregnant with him, and I traveled cross country because I had a vision. I realized that Ohio was not where I wanted to raise children. And so each one of them represent a
Yep.
time and space of who I was.
Right.
But I loved all aspects of me. So I get to nurture all those pieces in real time. So I just look at them as me. They're me's. And I mean, that helps me keep it straight. You know, there was a time though, Logic, I'll tell you, when I first started poetry and my husband was saying, "You can't do this. You're a mom. You're my wife." Um, I felt like I was in competition with motherhood and my dreams. And there was a part of time that I resented being a mom. It wasn't until I had Nico that I said, "You know what? I'm a mom and we're just going to give into this." Like I gave into motherhood instead of fighting it and making it, I need to do this. Like I need everyone to understand. I just went into it. I just said, I give up and I'm a mom now. And I wanted to frame everything around motherhood experience.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Shout out to my man Nico. shout out to the other little person who was back there, making cameos, getting his black Alfred Hitchcock on, making the cameo appearance in your short film. No, real talk. I appreciate and admire what you just now said. And I think what black folks, I say this often, man, they give you this book to study, and then they make you take this test, and you got to take a driver's test, to operate a car, but you don't get that same, you know what I'm saying, manual and test, to be a parent. And what I found out is being a parent, especially when I was a single parent for that time that I was my children's principal actually in high school. You find creative ways to be a black parent, you know what I'm saying, who goes through some pre-diagnosed things that happened before you were even born. And if you're wise enough and you're intelligent, you know what you're up against before you even up against it, so you can prevent it from happening. And if you have a really brilliant, genius parent like I did, like my mom, my stepfather, and all my extended family, they definitely prepared me to learn from their mistakes. And that's why in one of my poems I say my mistakes are my therapist and my teacher. You know what I'm saying? Because I learned from them. And I came to realize and very early in my parenthood that I got to be creative with this. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to be how pop culture tells you to be. You know what I'm saying? You can do whatever you want to do as long as your family is safe and that you're a good person to your children. So shout out to you. And it helped me be a better musician. It helped me be a better artist being a parent. Because parenting is an art.
Yes.
It's an art and a science. Mathematics too, you know what I'm saying? Because some stuff just don't add up that you do, and you got to figure it out.
You
know. So what did your former husband? What did he do for a living?
He does everything. At the time, I think he was a supervisor for a reentry program. Yeah. But he was artistic. He made jewelry. He paints. But he again, like it was like
he's an artist. He's an artist too.
He's an artist, but we were late bloomers because we were dealing with real life as kids. Like we was grown. When I met him, I was 16, he was 18. We became parents at 19 and 21. We were grown though. We was in the world. Like we weren't kids, but fundamentally we were still young people. But right now I am 41, but I tell people I feel ancient. Not that I feel old in my body. I have lived lifetimes. So by the time I'm 21, I felt like I had the maturity and some of the senses of a 40-year-old woman. I didn't feel inadequate or immature raising children on my own. I didn't feel like a young woman. I felt like my mama and my auntie.
Yeah. So, you look like you don't look a day past 21.
Thank you. Someone said to me, they said, Halisi, you just had another baby. How do you keep looking 25? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Can I say what I tell people for real?
Yeah, go ahead.
I tell women mostly ask me this, not men. I tell women, don't fake your orgasms.
Oh, okay.
You have to have them and they should be real. Don't lie.
Okay.
But also, like, I'm quick to get out of stress, right? So if I'm in a relationship with somebody, I'm a problem solver. But if the problems aren't being solved, I'm out. I tell men, I am not your ride or die chick. I'm your live or die. You're going to live with me or you're going to die without me. I'm not the ride or die.
And so for everybody out there in Seed Talk, after she gave that, you could tell she's a speaker. She's a motivational speaker. And you can tell she's a very good life coach. And we're going to transition into her and her, her divine generations lifecoaching.com. But how could you not donate to Wisdom Supreme. You know what I'm saying? Cash out Wisdom Supreme. Give to the tribe, please. She got 5 on the floor. She got 2 coming off the bench. Okay. All right. She got her. Shout out to Team Halisi. They're trying to win the championship, boy. Boy.
Oh, Lord.
Oh man. You look at your boy Nico. He player coach, man. Look at him, man.
He like just look away.
Yeah, man. You gave him a little milk, and he's cool, man. You gave him some nutrition. He is cool. Look at it, man. He ready to go through
he's
TSA.
looking at his toys. I don't know if he wants to be down there.
He probably does, man. He ready for TSA with those bags underneath his eyes. Look at him with his cute self. So, anyways, this has been great. We're gonna have to have a part 2 since we've introduced you and done your Genesis story, and we know who you're about. We're just gonna have you on here, and we're gonna have to just pick your brain. That sounds really lobotomist. But anyways, we'll have to pick your brain on just topics and stuff, since we have already established who you are. But in all seriousness, $ Wisdom Supreme is Halisi's Cash App. So tell us about Divine Generations Life Coaching so we can wrap up this episode of Seed Talk. Talk about what it means to you to be a generational life coach.
Ashe. Well, shout out to Francis Cress Welsing, who taught me about epigenetics, right? And I forget the other sister that talks about post-traumatic slave disorder. Both of those
Dr.
women,
Dr. Joy DeGruy. She got out of Portland, Oregon. Shout out to her.
Ashe. They were very inspirational to me. When I was studying in college. I went back to college a second time to study psychology. And also even people like Umar Johnson inspired me because Black parenting is a thing, but it's not a thing that is dissected like other scientists, and I've studied other psychologists, and I always wondered, why is that an under communicated field or topic in our circles, right? And I realized early, I remember when me and my ex-husband had our first son, we said children are like computers, and we're going to program our computer with all the things that, we wish that our parents were like. We were brilliant children. I could read music. I was reading college music in 7th grade. And not to diss my mom, but nobody was paying attention to me. And so the divine aspect of generations is you're in a story, a play, if you will. You didn't write it. You're a cast member, and this script has been given to you, but no one has helped you practice for this play. And you not only have to find out your role in this play, but you have to know the backstory in order for the play going forward to make sense. A lot of us don't realize that we were born into trauma, and we don't even know what the trauma is. It's a generational story, and unless you solve it, it's gonna keep going. Right? So divine generations, all generations are divine, right? If you have a child, even if it's a mistake, that's a divine moment. They talk about the immaculate conception of the Christ, but we all can be that, right? So I wanted people to look at their generational tree and find divinity in that. Because when I work with children, when I meet parents, it's usually because their child has acted up in school. Okay. And when I meet parents and they tell me, I've met prestigious people, attorneys. Okay. And these people say, I don't know why my child acts like this. Go get Demi. I don't know why he acts like that. And then they tell me a barrage of bad things about their child. They have no idea that I'm sitting there and I'm studying them as a parent. So that's a narrative. Someone probably did that to you, and now something inside of you is doing that to your child. And your child's just in it. Okay? And it started with me advocating for my own children. My son, who's 21, he goes to school. He's a bright boy, right? He says, Mom, they called me from school. They said, we just want you to know that we took your son's recess because he told the teacher, you suck. He's a 5th grader. And they took the recess, and I thought that's a weird reason to take the recess. But this old white lady, when my son said, you suck, she took that as a sexual euphemism. So he was punished for telling his teacher, you suck, because that's inappropriate. So no one said come to the school. I just figured, I live next door to the school. I walked over and I go inside the office, and my son's sitting there in the desk looking, bummed out. Soon as I walked in, he looked like scared. And I told him, I said, it's okay, relax. I'm here for you. My 5th grader broke down crying. And he says, Mom, I always raise my hand because I want to read out loud. And she never picks me. And this time he was pissed off. So he said, you suck. And she took his recess. So we're sitting, right? And she comes in the office, white woman, old woman, got her arms crossed. And we're both sitting down. So she's standing where she's like above us. So I stand up and I told her, I said, I talked to my son and I let him know you can't say that to your teacher. And I also let him know your teacher's saying that you suck. You know what? And he said, what? That's not what I meant, Mom. So I told her, I said, we talked about it. And he now knows that he should not talk to you like that. But I looked at her square in her eye. I said, but he is a 5th grader and he's a Black child and he's a boy and he wants to read out loud. And he says, you never choose him. And I told her, could you understand how frustrating that is? So I didn't do what most Black parents do. Most Black parents are pissed because you got me off of work or whatever I'm doing to come up here. Can you change him for me? Thank you. And it's almost like, how dare you interrupt the flow of money that I make for you? So we automatically come in there defensive against our child. Our child is not our opponent. Our child is a piece of us that needs to have I made a way for my son's voice to be heard. So, it was important. And my son loves school. So I'm like, I'm not about to let this old Betty kill it for my boy. And when I said to her, oh, she wasn't prepared for that. Her whole face was like, oh. And I told her, I said, and furthermore, do you know that prison bed count is created by the 4th grade reading score? So the fact that my 5th grader wants to read, going forward, I would like him to be chosen. I mean, that's a leadership moment for him. And it felt good to my Black child to see his Black mama get justice for him. So that's
shout out. First of all, shout out to you. I got, shout out to the teacher. All right. No, as an educator, I've been in this business 26 years. I think this might be my 27th year, actually. And I've been a high school principal for this is my 13th year. What I strive to do is I try to teach educators and also teach our students the importance of how to respond to things, because life is going to be about 10% of actually what happens to you and about 90% of actually how you respond to it. That's gonna mean the most thing. We got a lot going on over there. Okay, damn.
I'm sorry, Nico
Security then took Nico. God dang it. Security then got Nico up out of the building. God dang. Nico then got some muck and then got escorted out of the club. He drunk. Anyways, so as an educator, I want to give a shout out to all those educators that you gave a shout out to. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Joy DeGruy out of Portland, Oregon. My man Umar Johnson, I think he's out of Philadelphia, PA. Shout out to Dr. Cress Welsing. I forget where that sister's from, but she wrote the book, The ISIS Papers. And you mentioned a breadcrumb. You dropped the Easter egg. I love that. Epigenetics, right?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics. Pardon self. I know what it means, but I can't always say it right. Sorry, it's a live show, so we ain't editing this. Epigenetics, but it's the theory and actually the scientific fact that you can pass on certain stress to your and trauma to your children. And the sister Dr. Burke, she wrote a very important book too. Add her to the list too. We dropped breadcrumbs called the Deepest Well, and she talks about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and it talks a lot about. She might not use the word epigenetics specifically, but it really talks about how your childhood, your adversity adds to your trauma and damage to your the amygdala part of your brain and things of that nature. So and also shout out to Marimba Ani. She was influenced a lot by Sister Dr. Cress Welsing when she wrote the book Urugu. She wrote a book called Urugu, which talks about that. I can keep going on and on and on. But the point I'm trying to make is that trauma is real. And when we don't understand how much we're informed by trauma. Things that happened before we were born, and it created a blueprint and a program and programming and conditioning before we were born. We have to be deliberate and intentional. You know what I'm saying? So when you went up to that school, one of the things that I really liked about President Obama, some things I didn't like about him, but we're gonna take the best part. All right, the best part is when he said education is a civil rights issue, and when you deny people access in particular. See, he used a lot of code words. When he says civil rights issue, he was really talking about black folks. That's how I received it. And when you deny us access to certain educational opportunities, you're denying us access to quality living, to be treated as human beings. So when you deny even something as small, that's what we call a microaggression. Someone saying to a young person, a young fifth grader, black boy, that he can't read. You know what I'm saying? That's saying like you can't show how you're important, how you're valuable. And then when you say that I suck, I don't say. See, the first thing I would have said was, "Well, okay, it's interesting that you said I suck. Why?"
Yeah.
Give them the opportunity to articulate themselves, and then you can replace the behavior if you so choose. Because I'm not going to take nothing sexually until that young person says it's sexual.
Yes.
Because we have those, all throughout, school, we have that term. A lot of people say, "Oh man, that's gay." Like, how can anything be a sexuality? Explain that to me. They'd be like, "Oh, I didn't mean like that, Mr. I mean it's weird." Why didn't you just say it's weird?
Right.
Why didn't you just say it's different? Why didn't you just say I didn't like the assignment? Why do you have to say the assignment's gay? So part of what we do as children, or teaching children who have been programmed by trauma and informed by trauma, is teaching them how to articulate their feelings.
Yes.
Son, don't say you suck. Just say, "Hey man, I don't like the way you're treating me."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to also understand too that it's our responsibility to take care of our children, and a part of our responsibility of taking care of our children is teaching them how to respond to these aggressions that happen out there, because it literally can be the difference between life and death. You know what I'm saying?
It's true, and you said something right though. The school to prison pipeline is real, and I know up here in the Pacific Northwest, we're all pretty in tune with that. But in places like Philly, in places like Ohio, there are many parents that look like you and I who do not know what the school to prison pipeline. And so that teacher used her position of authority to punish instead of teach, which could have been a limit for my son, right? And that is what my work is. Like when I meet parents who are in the behavioral system and process with their child in schools, they're exhausted. They just want their kid to go to school and do what other kids are doing, which is learn. But they don't realize, like you said, microaggressions. Some of us are in tune and with our feelings. It starts with how you feel, right? And when you say that to me, it doesn't make me feel good. And instead of me, because I might be a third grader who lacks the communication, I might run out of your class. I might throw a chair at you because I don't have the words to say, I'm frustrated because your tone of voice, right? So we now also know, because of Frances Cress Welsing, she tells us communication is also a pathway to resources, to, whatever, right? So if I don't have the words to say to you, I also am limited in how and where I get to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so Divine Generations life coaching, I know, go take them. I told you, I can't take them. Go. Okay, go in the back and take them and lay them on that futon and take it off. Right. I created this color chart. It lists the color of the rainbow. I was teaching my preschooler red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And I had the colors on my bedroom closet wall. So every day I woke up, I could see the rainbow. And literally those colors start talking to me. So I started putting vocabulary words inside the colors. So everyone knows that when you feel red, when you see red, that means get out of my way. White people, black people, Chinese people, it don't matter. They all know when you see red, you about to kick some ass. But if I'm feeling red and my needs are being met, what does that mean? I'm excited, exuberant, right? These are words, these are vocabulary words that, depending on the Black household, children are like, what? I might know what excited means. I might not know what enthusiastic means, though. Right? So for every good thing, you brought up the ACEs too. When I came into the ACEs, I was planning how to deal with suicide, how to handle suicide. It was a workshop that I used to work with a psychiatrist and a therapist who put together this workshop for people, mostly professionals, but anyone could take it. And it was a training on vocabulary and how to deal with people who have either committed suicide or if you have had that happen, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm mental health has been my whole life. But as I start to look, I'm like, oh, most people, adults, not children, but adults, if I ask you, how do you feel today? You're either going to tell me happy, mad, sad, maybe surprised. Maybe we're not even going to really
tired.
give words.
I'm always tired.
But you see what I'm saying? No, we're not going to give. There's not a lot of vocabulary and communication around when I feel bad. But if I were to ask you, okay, you're tired. Tired from what? Tired from work. It would deepen and you would expose to me more vocabulary words, right? Mm-hmm. Most people don't have that, right? So they're in this little tiny box of expressing themselves. And some of it, they say the ACEs, right? One of the ACEs is if you had lived in a household with a parent who went to prison, or if you have a parent that's divorced. So let's just take those two. So little Devontae comes to school and he didn't eat breakfast this morning because his dad is at this little crappy job and she counts on him eating breakfast at school. But today, Devontae was late to school. So Devontae didn't get no breakfast. And Devontae's pissed off. And he's also sad because he misses his dad. And he comes to school and he might not look the best. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes that depends on how he's treated. And the teacher says, sit down. And he gets pissed. And he's like, fuck you, teacher. I'm out of here. I don't like you. And throw a chair at her. Go to the office. No one even asked that child, "Good morning, Devontae. You look frustrated," because I'm sure on his face he might have looked pissed because he didn't have breakfast. What's the matter, Devontae? And why does it have to be public? Why can't someone pull Devontae to the side and say, "You look grumpy. Are you okay?" So it also lets us know, are these teachers looking at our children when they come into class? Right? Because we can't keep acting like something's not happening, because those same adults who are responsible for teaching children who don't have the words, they don't have the words. Maybe your grandma died and you had to get up and come teach these kids, and you hate where you teach at. You probably actually hate teaching because your vision was to teach for 5 years. Want to sing, right? So people are not connected to their authentic voices, and then they show up, and we are making them responsible for children who haven't even tapped into that. Maybe not from home, not from school. And then this becomes a condition, right? Every day, like Devontae, he goes from third grade throwing the chairs to where now he's in 12th grade. As soon as he gets to school, he goes out the back door like, fuck school, because I don't even want to be here. These people don't like me. I ain't getting nothing from here anyway. And the saga continues, right? And that parent,
and then,
keep going.
And then Devontae has children.
I say,
and then Devontae informs him or her or them of his experience, you know what I'm saying? And so does the mother. And then it just completes the cycle. They don't trust the system. But so next time you come on the show, we're gonna have a whole episode dedicated to eating while on camera. And also
I'm a breastfeeding mom. I'm always hungry. I'm sorry.
I hear you now. We'll make accommodations. Speaking of education, we'll make accommodations for you. We know you got an IEP for breastfeeding. So listen.
It would be a 504, unless you want to offer me services to support me.
Nah, we're going to say, because there's other things that came up in this interview that definitely IEP is. No, it's all good. I had an IEP. I was a special SC. Anyways, but listen. I want to have a whole episode dedicated to informing parents on, on how to be an accomplice and an ally to your children in this education system that was, that they were forced into, with Brown versus the Board of Education. So we forget that. We skip over that little historical tidbit that our children were forced into this, into a system that wasn't, built for them. And we were doing quite fine before when we were segregated. We're doing quite, I mean, our school systems created Carter G. Woodson's and George Washington Carver, who was making all kinds of stuff out of peanuts and soybeans. So but I did want to add on this before we go into our last part of C Talk, which is the plan of action and the homework. Having a robust vocabulary goes back. This is what I call a callback to what we talked about in the beginning. Having a robust vocabulary is usually frowned upon in the Black community because we don't want to be aligned with the institution that are white folks, and so that's where we kind of shy away from that, because we don't want to have this robust education and vocabulary, because we don't want to people in our community to feel threatened by us and then say, oh, you're acting white and this, that. And, we don't want to be a threat, man. We don't want to feel like we're using our education against our people. So my point I'm trying to make is we have to change our value system, and that having a robust and diverse and deep vocabulary is not a bad thing. Don't feel threatened by that unless a person is using it like a weapon. Don't take it as a weapon. Take it as a tool. And I also wanted to comment on something. You said that us in Seattle know about the prison, the school to prison pipeline. You're right, because both our Seattle school district and Seattle Police Department were under the investigation by the feds. What I'm saying? Because of that relationship that they had. You know what I'm saying? So we have to dedicate a whole episode maybe to the school to prison pipeline next time. which will really inform people about the service that you have with that Divine Generations life coaching. Because what you just now did was pretty much a life coaching session for parents, you know, because I know that you are not alone in that situation that you had with your child. And you could be an incredible blessing, jewel, and a resource to other parents who go through that, so they can be informed to not only hold their children accountable for their actions, because we want to raise our children to articulate things better. Because I'm not going to even lie, to put things in perspective, when someone says I suck, I usually come back and say you swallow, and they be like, "Ooh, whoa." I said, yeah. There's power in words. There's power in words. So if I suck, you swallow. How about that? Oh, I didn't mean that. Okay, well, okay, I'll take it back when you take it back. Let's do some alternate words then. Okay. So we not only want to inform our children and hold them accountable, we also want to hold educators accountable too, of how to deal with our children, because education is a civil rights. It's a human rights issue too. So we're at the point in C Talk. This is the first time on C Talk, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You get explosions, all that. We got a part of the C Talk. After everything that we talked about, we asked, what is the plan of action, or what is the homework? I'll go first because I don't want to put you on the spot like that. But I would say the plan of action is look at your story. Look at your life story, and look at how much of your life story and how you responded to.
I'm sorry, I live across the street from a firehouse.
Anyways, look at your life story and okay, look at your life story. We got to get you some noise cancellation devices and equipment over to your house if we're going to do this next time. You might have to do this. You might have to bring the whole tribe and just come over here to Logic's house in West Seattle and just do it over here, because we don't have that problem over here. And it's not the basement. It's not a dungeon. It's called the root. But anyways, my plan of action is I have plan of action and I have homework. All right. So my plan of action is look at your life story and find out how much was informed by trauma and how much was informed by coping mechanisms. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that, for instance, let me give you a perfect example. I'm going to go a little deep real quick. We used to make fun of kids that peed in the bed. We sure did. Yep. And one of the coping mechanisms for peeing in the bed that our children, that our parents gave us, you got a whooping. You got in trouble. You got in trouble for that. I used to get in trouble, man, for peeing in the bed. I didn't know until I got older. We think it was funny. It's fine. It's okay to laugh. There's healing in it. See, no, now every time you look at me, now you're gonna see me just look at me.
No, it's the way you're telling it. It sounds funny.
It's the stand-up comedian in me. But I use humor to an uncomfortable situation. But there's healing in humor. But anyway, but every time you see me now, you're gonna be like, oh, this be in a bed. But listen, we used to get in trouble and we used to think it was funny. It wasn't until I got older. It's like, that's from trauma. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I know I can specifically say for me wetting in the bed until I was like older, like 9 or 10, was because of my ACEs, my adverse childhood experiences. And so one of the coping mechanisms that we want to pass is not, hurting our children because they pee in the bed. One of the coping mechanisms is like figure out how we can get the child to communicate what they're actually going through. Because they could be going through some kind of form of abuse. That's a very, very strong indicator of some kind of abuse, neglect, or some kind of trauma. Right. So I'm not trying to say people who pee in the bed are getting sexually abused. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is it tells a bigger story. It's a breadcrumb. So, my homework is this, brought to you by Halisi, is all these people that she informed us. I added a couple in there. I added Neely Fuller in there. He wrote a great book on just the whole concept of racism and white supremacy. She talked about Dr. Cress Welsing. You can just Google. See, I'm giving you some really, really good food to Google. So Google this. Dr. Joy Gururi, Marimba Ani. I put Neely Fuller in there twice. My bad. And Nadine Burke. Nadine Burke wrote that book, The Deepest Well. So that's me. right, what you got? What's your plan of action or homework?
So my plan of action to you all, right? Is to really be honest with how you feel. I think we started the segue to that. Be honest about how you feel. And I tell parents, it's okay to tell your kid how you feel. When I'm tired, or if I'm, not feeling the greatest, we got to stop hiding how we really feel from our children. I know that sometimes it's a coping mechanism because we don't want our children to worry about us. But children are people, and when you model for your child, I don't know if I would say I feel depressed. I don't. It depends on what's happening. But to say to your kid how you feel also gives your child the same opportunity to say how they feel. So, like, think about how you model. Like my kids, if they're doing something, I don't tell them you're making me mad. I say right now, I'm feeling burnt orange, almost red. Because my kids know that when I'm feeling orange, if it's positive, it's creativity. But if I'm also feeling orange, it's annoyed. And if I'm borderline red, that means I'm starting to get angry. So I talk to my kids in colors. And so I just advise parents to be honest. Tell your kid, right now I have told you 17 times to stop coming to talk to me, and it is annoying me. You can tell your kid they are annoying you because someone might do something to them and they have the language to say, that's annoying me. It's also a vocabulary word, right? So be honest. Talk to your kids about how you feel so that they can say how they feel. Give them the permission to tell you, Mom, that you're annoying me. My high schooler tells me, I say, can you get the baby? He says, no, Mom, I can't. Right now, I don't feel like being bothered with that.
Oh, damn.
And then I'll have to take Nico and walk away.
Okay. Hey, that's fine. That's fine. When you ask for some money, I don't feel like giving you no money. I don't feel like giving you no right. Young folks and our loved ones and the people we're in relationship with got to understand reciprocity is a real thing. And sometimes you do things for other people, even when you don't feel like it. Shout out to Halisi. Shout out to Nico's back. Nico got the itis. Anyway, so we gonna close out. This has been C Talk. This has been an awesome show. I want to encourage everyone again, like I said, to comment and please share this. If you are on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe. It's been C Talk. You want to tell them where they can find you and whatnot, and how they can get a hold of you?
Oh, most definitely. If you want to book a clarity call with me, you can book through my Instagram. I'm Divine Generations Life Coaching. Also, feel free to book a clarity call through divinegenerationslifecoaching.com and Divine Generations Life Coaching on Facebook. And look me up on YouTube, Halisi the Wisdom Wordsmith.
So make sure you guys go onto the website. If y'all want to have one of those conversations that we had personal and whatnot. I also do life coaching too if you want to connect with me. And you know what? Maybe this can evolve into some Black male, female, forums and support groups. You know what I'm saying? I've been dying. I've been living to do something like that. So, but if you want to get a hold of Divine Generations Life Coaching, go ahead and get a hold of them right there on the website, and you can book yourself a personal call and whatnot. But like I said, this has been C Talk. We got to do a part 2. We got to do a part 2 when we can just talk more about, how we can use poetry, to inform people in the Hill, and also just more opportunities for life coaching. Whoa. All right. And and just talk about other things, man, that are pertinent to our community when it comes to mental health and also education. Like I said, it's been C Talk, and we out. Love y'all. Peace.
You know what it is. Yep, C Talk. We plant seeds, drop breadcrumbs, that we use the eggs. We should have go into a better
That was
seed talk, stuff